Thanks for being here.
Of course, thank you for your leadership, sir.
All right. Good morning. Good to see everybody this morning. I want to welcome everyone here. We are here today to talk about a process, a very important process that is underway, and that is the public comment period that was as part of the Climate Community Leadership Protection Act, the CCLPA, which most New Yorkers don't even know is going on. At a time when energy prices are at an all-time high, gas prices are at an all-time high, home heating prices are at an all-time high. You see what's going on internationally. Energy policy isn't just a local issue. It's not just a state issue. It's not just a national issue. It is a national security issue. Policies that we put forward here in New York State, across the country, have real-life impacts on men and women, from their jobs to their heating prices to their gas prices, but it also impacts the national security of the United States of America. And we're seeing that today in a way that we haven't seen in a long time. One of the policies being put forward by the Climate Action Council, which is a group of unelected individuals, faceless. Most New Yorkers have never heard of these people. And I can tell you, men and women from labor, men and women who represent the energy industry, are vastly outnumbered. And there's not one consumer representative on this Climate Action Council. There's no one there to represent the person who's going to get the home heating bill, the gas bill, who's paying record prices at the pump. But one of the options this plan is putting forward is the ban on natural gas hookups. This makes absolutely no sense. To ban all this is going to do, like so much of our energy policy for many years, is going to make New York State more competitive. It's going to drive up costs on everyday New Yorkers. It's going to force more people to leave this state, and it's going to hurt the men and women who should be hard at work making sure they're building energy infrastructure for the future right here in New York State. But instead, we're not building any energy infrastructure. We're banning it, we're limiting it, we're reducing it. Our energy policy over the last several years has been exporting jobs and importing energy. Importing energy from other states, importing energy from other countries. And don't be fooled by the recent efforts of the governor to cast the blame on the energy increases, price increases, on the crisis in Ukraine, on the invasion of Ukraine. These things were going on long before the thug Vladimir Putin decided to invade a democracy. The point is, when things like that happen, they exacerbate, because of our bad policy, they exacerbate a crisis that's already of our own making here in New York State. What we should be doing is working to make sure that people like you're going to hear from here in a second, like Mark Valentini and John Murphy, who represent labor, plumbers, pipe fitters, we should be making sure that those folks have jobs and are building the energy infrastructure of the future. And that energy infrastructure not only will employ New Yorkers, it'll help keep energy prices down. Instead, we ban pipeline projects here in the United States, and we approve them in Europe. Pipeline projects that help fund Vladimir Putin's military, that help fund missiles and bombs that are being used against civilians in the Ukraine. A pipeline that's going to help put, I guess, Germans to work, but not Americans, not New Yorkers. There simply is no rational policy metric that we can put forward to defend the energy policy here in New York State. And the Climate Action Council, putting forward things like banning natural gas hookups in the cover of darkness in a very non-transparent process, is not going to help make things any better. And our conference has stood against the original bill that created the Climate Action Council, and we have spoken out loudly against many of these plans coming forward. But the public needs to know they get a say. They do get a say. Whether or not the Climate Action Council will listen to them remains to be seen. But they do get a say, and we're calling on them. Men and women of labor, consumers, everyday New Yorkers, you get a say. This public comment period runs to April 30th. It is imperative that you make your voice heard on this plan and on the future of energy policy and really the future of the economic viability of New York State. At this time, I want to call on someone who knows this very well, who understands the impact on working men and women across the state of New York and across the country, and that is Mark Valentini, the Director, Legislative Affairs, Plumbing, Heating, Cooling Contractors, National Association. Mark.
Thank you, Leader Ort, Senator Matera, and the Senate Republican Caucus for your leadership on this important issue. The New York State Plumbing, Heating, Cooling Contractors Association and the Plumbing, Heating, Cooling Contractors National Association and its state and local counterparts across the country oppose efforts to eliminate the use of natural gas. I am joined today with Chris Trijankowski of PCS Heating and Stephen Reddy of Niagara Plumbing and Heating. Both of them have made the trek from Buffalo, New York to be here today. Thank you for making the trip, and thank you for being here. Plumbing and HVAC contractors are environmentalists by trade, ensuring the American people have access to clean water and air through modern, constantly evolving, and increasingly efficient plumbing and HVAC technologies. PHCC has been tracking this issue as it evolves across the country, not just in New York. In every case where gas ban policies were introduced or passed at the local and state levels, there has been little regard by policymakers and a lack of consumer awareness for the impact electrification policies will have on the energy grid and capacity, and discussion about the astronomical costs associated with retrofitting a home or commercial building to be all electric have been dismissive at best. Even though the ordinance passed late last year by the New York City Council and current proposals being entertained by the state legislature prohibits natural gas in new construction, it is no secret that the goal is to completely eliminate the use of natural gas. Based on conversations our contractors have had with their customers, there seems to be a little consumer awareness in New York and across the country about efforts to eliminate natural gas and, more importantly, the costs associated with retrofitting a home to make it all electric. This includes the cost of upgrading a home's electric panel, not to mention the cost of replacing appliances, which will cost homeowners tens of thousands of dollars. In addition, we can expect utility costs to increase, costs that are currently offset by the use of natural gas, due to the increase in electricity usage as homes switch to all-electric appliances. The increase in electricity usage will, of course, put additional strain on the energy grid. New York State budget proposal, a must-pass piece of legislation that keeps the Empire State's government operating through the next fiscal year, is no place for a non-germane amendment that bans fossil fuels and is yet again an attempt to force these policies under the radar and with little regard to what the ultimate aim of these policies will cost consumers. This is a proposal that needs to be debated on its own and in a transparent manner that ensures all New Yorkers have an opportunity to truly understand the implications of limiting their access to natural gas. Thank you.
At this time, I want to call up someone who knows the failure of New York State's energy policy very well, someone who has spoken out on these issues for his entire time in the New York State Senate and the New York State Legislature, and that is our finance ranker, Senator Tom O'Mara.
Thank you. Thank you, Leader Ort. Thank you, Mark, for being here with the Plumbing and Heating and Cooling Associations, the pipe fitters that are with us today that rely on this type of work for their livelihoods. You know, we're talking about a comment period here today on the Climate Action Council, the CLCPA, the CCIA, in a nutshell, New York's Green New Deal. It's going to upend our entire economy in New York State. And the proponents know it. They openly admit that the overall cost of this is going to be near $300 billion. Yet they have incorporated no cost-benefit analysis of what the proposals are going to cost everyday New Yorkers, business owners in New York, apartment owners, landlords, tenants, ultimately, for the cost that are going to come with this. And how do we know that it's going to upend our economy? Because incorporated in the language is something called a Just Transition Fund. And it accounts for paying the wages of individuals who lose their livelihoods as a result of these changes, paying their wages for up to 3 years. For what? And we're asking people to comment on this. There's nothing out there. People don't know. I'm glad there's some media here today to help us get this word out, because people need to know what's coming down the pike. We are moving in New York State at such a breakneck speed that's going to crush our economy. It's going to further work to the detriment of affordability in New York State, which we already know we're the least affordable state in the nation, for putting all of our eggs in one basket. What we need in this state and in this country is a balanced energy portfolio so that we can account for fluctuations in different areas of the market. We can account for international issues that come to affect this. You know, the comment period is, first of all, way too short at 120 days. We're looking to push that out further so that we can have more comments put in so people can really learn, so citizens in New York can really learn about what's going on here. But this is all going on behind the scenes. Everybody's talking about the Green New Deal and how great it's going to be, not knowing what the impacts are going to be. And it's initially going to be 26% increase on your home heating fuels, 55 cents a gallon on gasoline going forward. And, you know, I don't want to sound like we're up here and we're climate deniers, we're anti-environmentalists, because we're not. We're for clean energy and advancing things forward at a reasonable pace, one that doesn't upend our economy in a short period of time and disrupt the workforce by planning to pay for 3 years of wages for people that lose their jobs because of this. It's wrong. It's not going to make a damn bit of difference in New York State's climate. This is a global issue. New York State accounts for 0.4% of global emissions. If we get this perfectly and we get to zero, which is impossible, if we get to zero in New York State, the impact upon climate issues in New York State will be nothing. No impact, no lessening of the burdens of increased hurricanes and storms and floods, no matter what we do in New York. The $300 billion, we'd be better off sending it to India for them to clean up some of their things, because they're the ones that are causing all this escalation and not taking the advances that we have in New York State, that we're leaders on in New York State, but yet we're going to continue to slit our own throat economically here in New York State, crush affordability even further in New York State, and put hardworking men and women out of work in New York State while driving up everyday New Yorkers' household expenses. Thank you all for being here today. I want to introduce next, following here, Senator Mario Matera. Thank you, Mario.
Thank you. Great job. Thank you so much, Senator O'Mara, for those words. Leader Ort, all my colleagues, Mike Valentini, thank you so much. Mark Valentini, all of my brothers and sisters from the United Association of Plumbers and Pipe Fitters from Buffalo to Montauk Point, for being here to protect the residents and our state. New York State Pipe Trades is here also, the executive board. Remember one thing, the plumber protects the health of the nation. As elected officials and New Yorkers ourselves, we are all keenly aware of the need to protect our environment. We are all committed to preserving our planet for future generations. But we know that any steps must be done smartly in a manner that does not negatively impact the lives of those that live in our state now. As a labor leader, we are keenly aware of how policies that are crafted in Albany impact the hardworking men and women of labor and our state. I know firsthand that we have been balanced in our approach to this issue. This plan has a real danger of eliminating the very jobs our residents need, especially as we recover from the COVID-19 crisis. Banning natural gas has been proposed, and this plan will be disastrous for those in the plumbing industry. And it is unnecessary since natural gas is one of the cleanest source of energy, a safe, reliable, and lower carbon fuel source that is a necessity for our state and for our residents. This scoping plan, as is now, will harm our workers, our residents, and our small businesses, and we need to do better. This is not a union, non-union issue. This is a bipartisan issue that we must work together. We need to do a real cost study, like a Cornell study, to see how this plan impacts every segment of our state before New York takes action. This plan will impact every resident of New York State, and there is no reason we have to choose between harming our families and our workers and protecting our environment. We can reach a mutual goals by acting wisely and committing to working together. We are all supportive of renewable energy, but as we all move together forward, the goal, we need to find solutions that work. You know, something that's important to me, back what happened in the 70s and the 80s, we know that they were trying to go electrified back then. And you know what happened? There was incentives that were put in place. And you know what? As a plumber, I would go to people's homes and make sure that they would say, what do you think I should purchase in my home? And I would say, always go with natural gas. It is our natural resource that, in other words, that is renewable. It's great energy. It is clean energy. But you know what? The electric, that time, with those incentives, did not work. So you know what? And then all the people changed over to natural gas. And you know what? So me, today, I am very happy to highlight now, this issue will impact our union men and women. But it is my pleasure to introduce the UA representative for the plumbers and pipe fitters, New York State Rep. John J. Murphy.
Thank you, Mario. Thank you, Leader. Thank you. Thank you. One of the greatest challenges we face in our country today is the growing sense of tribalism. Far too many Americans tend to interpret the facts based on where they stand, as opposed to listening to the facts to determine where they stand. Climate change is an emotionally charged topic, and we can all agree that climate change is real. I also believe that most, if not all, New Yorkers want clean air and a healthy environment. How we achieve those goals is where the problem lies. In order for this state to achieve its goal of zero carbon emissions by 2040 while maintaining reliable and affordable energy for New Yorkers, a sensible, all of the above transition plan is needed. Critical energy demand must be met while all viable clean sources are developed, and that includes natural gas. Our members are extremely proud of the important work they do to bring clean energy to our communities. However, well-intentioned environmental groups continue to flood social media with misconceptions that big oil and gas are fighting the clean air movement. The reality is that tens of thousands of union plumbers, pipe fitters, millwrights, insulators, laborers, and so many more are not big oil and gas. They are the middle-class New Yorkers that build and maintain the power facilities that keep the lights on and our homes warm. Our members live in New York, raise their families in New York, and they build New York. Since the implementation of the CLCPA in 2019, we no longer have to predict skyrocketing energy bills and massive job losses. We're experiencing that right now. This is only the beginning. Yet many of the loudest voices in the environmental community refuse to accept the notion that we don't have to displace middle-class union jobs to achieve climate goals. We've all heard the phrase, just transition. The denials of the NRG and Dan Scammer clean energy power facilities has put more than 1,200 building trades members out of work. Some have stated, well, these were temporary jobs. Every job for a building trades member is a temporary job. If we're not on the job, we don't get paid. We lose our medical coverage and our pension credits. The UA alone in New York City has more than 300 members unemployed and more than 100 members working in other states away from their homes in order to earn a living and maintain medical coverage for their families. They could be working at NRG or countless other facilities that are in danger of being closed. Where is their transition? Those unemployed are faced with the same high gas prices, the same high utility bills, and yet this is self-inflicted. The CLCPA is deciding who the winners and losers are. It doesn't have to be that way. One only has to look across the globe to see the hundreds of billions in capital being invested in various no and low carbon sources of energy. Experts agree that in order to move away from fossil fuel power generation, nuclear, carbon capture and storage, and hydrogen have to be in the mix. Intermittent renewables can't do it alone. Since the closing of Indian Point, which was a zero emissions facility, fossil fuel generation in New York City has increased double digits. The average age of the 70-plus facilities is 51 years old. It's more important now than ever to retire and retrofit the old gas and diesel polluting plants that are making the problem worse and build high-efficiency plants that will employ thousands of building trades members while maintaining reliable and affordable energy for the residents of the state. It's just common sense. NRG and Danscam are positioned to operate using 30% hydrogen from day one and 100% zero-emissions hydrogen by 2040. Picture retrofitting fossil fuel power generating facilities across the state to 100% hydrogen facilities that provide clean, reliable energy and sustain thousands of middle-class jobs, built by New Yorkers. That is a just transition. Thank you. Thank you.
Well, no one can say it better than that. Thank you, John. Thank you, Senator Matera. Thank you, Senator O'Mara. And thank you, Mark, for your comments and contributions. To sum up, and I think Senator O'Mara said it maybe very bluntly but right, this is a suicidal energy policy that we are pursuing here in New York. It's we are willfully reducing our energy independence. We are willfully putting people out of work. And by the way, when it comes to natural gas, we're just importing natural gas from other states. So to Senator O'Mara's point, we're not even able to look these people in the face that have been laid off or lost their jobs. We can't even tell them that it's been worth it. We can't honestly tell them that. And as Senator O'Mara also pointed out, we're at 0.04% emissions in New York State. That's without this. We've done that between a combination of the private sector and everyday New Yorkers pushing for, we all want, as John said, we all want a clean environment. We all want clean air and water. We all want to be more efficient with our energy usage. And that's happening, and it has happened. But this is more about an ideology, regardless of the facts, as John said, and we're pursuing and cherry-picking facts to get us to a point where we already know we want to be, or some know they want to be. But I firmly believe that New Yorkers of all stripes, Democrats, Republicans, independents, union, non-union, they have a chance to weigh in on this process. And I don't believe that they share some of the goals of some of the ideologues here in Albany, and I don't believe they share the goals of the Climate Action Council. And that's why it's so important that they make their voices heard. We represent them here. We're trying to articulate what I believe they feel and what they would want to know, but they need to make their voices heard in this process, because this is the only chance, sadly, that they will get to do so. And with that, I'm happy to take any questions. We'll do on-topic questions first, and then if there's off-topic, we'll move to those. Well, I think the answer is very simple. There's been no metric that has shown that these are one-for-one jobs. You are going to lose far more jobs than you will ever create with these new industries. And that's been borne out where other states, where renewable industries have come up. That doesn't mean that you abandon the renewable effort, but to use the argument that, don't worry, we're going to replace all the union jobs with other union jobs, building windmills or whatever. It's just simply not true, and the facts don't bear that out. So I would say that it's not a one-for-one, and you're putting more people out of work, and you're not employing nearly as many people. And talk about temporary jobs, those are absolutely temporary jobs. They build them once, and that's the end of it. Yes. Sure.
Say that New York should be leading the movement. They should be a leader in this, even if it's not necessarily make it dead. As Senator O'Mara said, it should be their position. What do you say to that?
So I would say, I think I want to answer this in an appropriate way. One, we have been leading. New York State is a leader on a number, look at the data, the metrics. For a major state with a major metropolis, we have led nationally on many of these topics, these issues, whether it's from a policy standpoint or just from a incentivizing moves to renewables and cleaner energy sources, and certainly on the environmental side, New York State has been a leader on that. And my Republican colleagues have supported a lot of those moves. But we're not you cannot say we're leading to the men and women behind me who work in the trades when they're unemployed. We should be leading on job creation. We should be leading on sustaining middle-class jobs for New Yorkers. We should be leading on creating an energy independent and making sure we have low energy prices and affordable energy prices here in New York. We're not leading there. And other states aren't going to follow our lead on this. They're not going to willfully say, we're just going to get rid of all these jobs and, again, commit what I would call energy suicide. And you know who was also not following our lead? China, who just fired up 16 coal plants. Coal plants. So they're not following our lead. India is not following our lead. Russia certainly isn't following our lead. So, at some point, yes, it's important to lead, but it has to be backed up by common sense. It has to be backed up by input from all New Yorkers, and it has to make sense economically as well as aspirational. My concern with the Climate Action Bill and the Climate Action Council was we're making policy off of aspirational goals that we can't measure. We can't measure. We have estimates financially. My guess is if they're estimating $300 billion, it's more. Because I've never known one estimate that's come out of this place that's been on point. It's always been higher. So, and you know what? The wage, we're going to pay people's wages that we've laid off. I guarantee you that every single working man and woman that would be laid off would prefer a job, an honest job where they can go work every day, than the government giving them 3 years of a handout. That is not what these men and women want. They want to go to work. They want to go to work in New York. They want to come home and be able to say, I'm providing for my family. That's what they want, and that's what we need to get back to in this state and in this country.
Your assessment of the GOP convention.
Man, he was right in there. Thanks, Daryl. So I was there, Daryl, for the very beginning. Obviously, we're in session, so I was up here Monday and Tuesday. There's a lot of energy. When I was there, there's as much energy and optimism at a Republican convention probably since Governor George Pataki has been in office. And I think that's borne out by what you're seeing across the country. I think it's borne out by what you saw last November in Long Island, where we were in Nassau County. That there's a lot of frustration for some of the issues we're talking about, and there needs to be an alternative. Every state is benefited by a healthy two-party system, and the Republican Party needs to be able to present a viable, hopeful